Christians always compare their God with other gods to claim that he is superior. One example is they claim that their God is not like the other gods who demand child sacrifice. But in this video, we are going to find out he is much worse than those gods who actually demand child sacrifice. Let's be clear from the start. The Bible tells a story in Genesis chapter 22 where God tells Abraham to kill his own son as a test of faith. See what it says. Take your son, your only son Isaac, whom you love, and offer him there as a burnt offering. So here is this biblical God who acts just like any other God who demands child sacrifice. Now Christians will jump in to defend by saying, yeah, but he stopped Abraham before he killed the son. Yes, he stopped him, but that doesn't erase what came before. A supposedly all-knowing, loving God commanded a father to slaughter his own child, and we are supposed to admire that? What if a God asked you to molest a young girl and stopped you just before you did it? Would you call that a holy God? No, you would call that a sickening monster. Christians love to say it was just a test. God never really intended for Abraham to go through with it. That only makes it worse. Why this test? Because God wanted Abraham to prove he would do whatever God said, even if it was immoral and evil. That's not very different from the tribal gods Christians claim to be better than. And why demand such loyalty? Because the Bible's God gave many cruel and violent commands later in the Old Testament, genocides, massacres, and more, and he expected unquestioning obedience each time. That's not righteousness, that's authoritarianism. And now I will explain why this biblical God is much worse than the gods who demand child sacrifice. Christians claim their God never demanded child sacrifice, and in Abraham's case, he stopped it. But let's go further. In the Old Testament, God orders the Israelites to wipe out entire populations, including women and innocent children. So let's ask, did God stop the Israelites when they raised swords to kill those children? Did he halt the killing and say, no, this is too far? You proved your loyalty to me, now stop. Did he say that? No, he commanded it, he approved it, he rewarded it. So how does the Christian claim that our God would never demand child sacrifice make any sense? This is exactly why we say he is worse than the tribal gods. Hypocrisy and obedience to evil. If any tribal god from another culture asked a father to kill his child, even as a test, Christians would call it barbaric, demonic, and morally disgusting. But when their God does it, suddenly it becomes a beautiful lesson in faith. They justify it with the classic, it was just a test. But let's be honest, what kind of God thinks it's okay to command evil just to see if you will obey? If your boss told you to shoot your own child to prove your loyalty, but stopped you at the last second, would you praise him as wise and good? This is not morality. It's manipulation through fear. The real message is clear. Obey without question, even when the command is horrifying and evil. And the contradiction gets worse. Christians claim their God hates child sacrifice. They point to Canaanite religions and say that's why God punished them, because they offered children to Moloch. But then in Genesis 22, the same God asks Abraham to do that exact thing. So when others do it, it's abomination. But when Yahweh, the biblical God, does it, it's a test, a symbol, a foreshadowing. This is not divine morality. This is religious hypocrisy and theological inconsistency. Another excuse Christians use is that this story foreshadows Jesus' sacrifice. We already discussed in another video why Jesus' death was just a continuation of old pagan sacrifice rituals rebranded as Christian theology. You can find the link to that video in the comment section as a pinned comment. But even if we ignore that, does it cancel what we have just discussed? God still asked a man to murder his child. He still demanded genocide later. He still rewarded blind obedience to his evil commands. Whether or not it foreshadows Jesus doesn't fix anything. It just tries to wrap a violent idea in theological sugarcoating. This story is not a beautiful lesson about faith. It's a horrifying tale of blind obedience to a violent command. And if you remove the religious label from it, if you heard the same story in any other culture, you would probably be shocked and disgusted. Ask yourself, any God who commands a father to kill his own son, even as a test, is not worthy of worship. And any God who orders the slaughter of innocent children and watches as the command is fully carried out is not just unworthy of devotion, he is a repulsive, bloodthirsty monster.